Hey everyone! I'm Albert Boris. Super Mario Galaxy 2. This was one of the first Mario games I ever played growing up. Released for the Nintendo Wii all the way back in 2010, it's gone on to become one of my favorite video games of all time, up with its predecessor. The second game in particular has always stuck with me, having played it first and thus spent more time on it. I can't believe it's been over a decade already. I recently did a full playthrough of the game so I could re-experience the nostalgia, and it got me thinking I wanted to make a video on this game. More specifically, I wanted to rank the 7 worlds in this game. This isn't really a topic I've seen people talk about, so I thought it could make for a more unique video. I'll be ranking the worlds mostly based on what levels are played, but also on how much I like the map itself, mostly based on the atmosphere. So, with all that being said, let's get started! In last place, we have World 4, The Many Mysteries of the Cosmos. Yeah, sorry if this is your favorite world. This has traditionally always been the game's low point for me, and nothing has really changed since my most recent playthrough. World 4 is just kinda dull, both in the levels, but also the theming itself. The world map is already pretty forgettable as it is, like, the Milky Way is pretty beautiful, but it's nothing extraordinary for this game, and the music is sadly forgettable. The bigger issues, however, would be the galaxies themselves. World 4's levels on the whole are very surrealistic, which isn't a bad thing on its own. Jumpworks Galaxy has really unique theming and gameplay, and Sweet Mystery Galaxy invokes really charming dreamlike vibes, but in general, the levels don't really entrance me. Supermassive Galaxy is just kinda uninspired. It's just a bunch of generic blocks in the middle of nowhere, and Flipspell Galaxy is just odd. It's a bunch of neighborhoods in some weird purple void, and it barely feels like a Mario level. Everything about it is just off, and it doesn't help that it's visually bland. Beyond those levels, you've also got Honeyhop Galaxy, which is nothing more than a discount honey hive, as well as Starshine Beach, one of the few open world galaxies in the game. That sounds fun, but it's just a regular beach, and it's annoyingly huge to traverse. The Bowser Gauntlet is fine, twisting the laws of physics, but honestly, I've never really cared for the Bowser levels in this game. The Bowser Jr. forts always had a more creative level design and boss fights, whereas these ones are more like regular castle levels with a twist. Yeah, overall, it's safe to say that World 4 is not really my jam. It's always stuck out like a sore thumb, with its more generic yet bizarre vibe. It's not a bad time, but I always find myself wanting to proceed to World 5 whenever I get to it. And speaking of which, let's proceed on with the next world. World 2, Shooting for the Stars, is the second weakest world of the game. Being only the game's second world, it's expectedly a lot less ambitious than the late game, mostly containing easy levels with versatile gimmicks. The best way to describe World 2 is that it's a beginner world without the influences of a typical tutorial world. You know, grassy green plains. And it's pretty clearly marked by the fact that the world map appears to take place further out in the solar system than World 1. It's a pretty beautiful theme, with a cool hazy red illuminating from the sun. The levels are generally more than fine. The highlight is Cosmic Cove Galaxy, one of the most beautiful levels in the game, with its serene music and detailed marine life. Sadly, most of the other levels don't feel as organic as this one. Again, you got a generic Bowser level, but the bigger issue is that World 2's levels are very linear. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is already pretty infamous for its linearity, but World 2 takes it comically far, with levels like Hightail Falls, Honeybloom, and Puzzle Plank Galaxy. Like, this isn't a galaxy, it's just some platforms. Well, what they lack in creativity, at least they make up for in gameplay, as they all employ very engaging gimmicks, so it kinda evens out. It's just, I wish they felt more alive. At least it's more than I can say for Boulder Bowl Galaxy, which is both linear and unfun. Seriously, defeating a bunch of enemies to move on is not good game design, and there is an even worse one coming up ahead. Surprisingly, I really enjoy the Wild Glide Galaxy. I've never really hated motion controls as much as everyone else, so I was able to enjoy the lush atmosphere and unique gimmick without any issue. Overall, I'd say that World 2 is pretty alright. It's not the best thing ever, it could be more organic, but it offers fun gameplay that's enjoyable in its own right. I certainly wouldn't mind playing through it. Moving on to the next world. World S, the special world of this game, is in 5th place for me. Yeah, not gonna lie, I was actually somewhat surprised this ended up so low on my ranking, because I always remember this world for being, well, special. I mean, we all know about the perfect run at this point. But just like with World 9 in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, nostalgia doesn't always hold up. This is the post-game content you unlock after beating the main story, and unlike the worlds before, this one doesn't really have any big levels. It's mostly just silly little throwbacks to previous Mario games as a reward for saving the princess, such as Rainbow Road from Mario Kart Wii or Rico Harbor's secret stage from Mario Sunshine. You've also got levels that directly reference the first Mario Galaxy, most notably the Bus Rush, but also the 8-bit Mario and Stone Cyclone sections. Unfortunately, baiting off nostalgia doesn't always translate to good levels. See, here is the problem with World S. None of the levels are particularly bad, except for Stone Cyclone Galaxy, but none of them are particularly memorable either. It's mostly just short one-off missions in some location whose only merit is reviving nostalgia. And while that doesn't make them unfun, it does make it a lot less interesting than worlds with better and more unique ideas. The biggest irony is that the one throwback galaxy which actually put effort into itself was not in World S, but in World 6. Ironically, my favorite level in this world is also the one that doesn't really fit in, Flip Out Galaxy. It's almost as if these two should have swapped. It's based on a flip swap mechanic in World 1, but with blocks instead of platforms. It's really engaging. That said, it still irritates me how it sticks out like a sore thumb in a world full of references. I mean, Throwback Galaxy was right there. I guess you could say it makes me flip out. World S is pretty good, however after playing it for this video I knew I couldn't put it above some of the game's other worlds, because in spite of its fun, it's admittedly pretty short and doesn't leave as much of an impression, seeing as the levels are mostly just short nostalgia rides as opposed to original ideas. World 6, Bowser in Your Sights, is the final world of the main story, and it's a pretty satisfying conclusion. It's not the most consistent world, but what it does succeed at is some of the best content this game has to offer. It already gets you pumped up from the world map setting itself, taking place near a black hole at the center of the universe. It really sets the tone for the final showdown, and it's amplified by the breathtakingly calm yet despairing music. The levels though is where it really gets interesting, because on one hand, you've got some of the game's best galaxies, but then you also had levels where you frankly couldn't tell why they even exist. Flash Black Galaxy is a neat concept, but it's wasted on a generic stage if it could have been a lot more interesting. Melty Monster Galaxy feels like they couldn't decide if they wanted a lava or a bowling level, and Battle Belt Galaxy is a complete joke. It shouldn't even exist. You're just defeating enemies. Frankly, I believe it only exists because they had to put the secret boss somewhere. Yeah. Luckily, as I said, the other half of the coin is home to some of the game's best levels. Throwback Galaxy on its own is one of the coolest inclusions ever, being an enhanced version of Whomp's Fortress in Mario 64. Unlike other callbacks in this game, this one actually feels like a regular level, with multiple missions and things to do, and since it's technically already a planet, it doesn't really clash with Mario Galaxy at all. It's arguably my favorite level in this world, which is saying a lot considering it also has the adventurous Clockwork Ruins, the serene Slimy Spring, and the best Bowser level in the game. I know I criticized the Bowser levels in World 2 and 4, but luckily the final one really amps it up by taking everything you've learned on your journey for a final challenge. Also, I feel like I'm gonna be the first one to mention this, but the final boss is actually kinda underrated. Sure, it's easy, but it's still really climactic. And the music is amazing. Overall, World 6 is a masterful experience and holds some of my best memories of this game. Really, if it weren't for the few bad levels, this could have easily been higher. Surprisingly, the Great Space Journey began with a world that wasn't just a good introduction to the game, but even managed to surpass multiple other worlds on this list. I was conflicted on whether I should put this or World 6 higher, but I figured this one was always more consistently good. Being the first world, the atmosphere is more what you typically expect from a beginner world, with the levels resembling Earth more than outer space. In fact, the map itself appears to take place in the skies directly above the Earth, which would explain the overworld theming of the levels. Wait, something doesn't add up here. Are you telling me that 7 different galaxies just happen to be located within the Earth's atmosphere? Galaxies. What a sick joke. I've certainly never seen one.
Albert, what's that behind you?
What? Are you telling me there's a galaxy just chilling there? You got me. Okay, regardless of scientific inaccuracies, World 1 is a very solid first impression, to the point that growing up, it was actually one of the main reasons I enjoyed the second game over the first one. You'd think World 1 in a Mario game would only be the bare minimum to get you started, but surprisingly, it really pushes the limits for being the first step. Sky Station Galaxy is already a decent first impression. Maybe not as iconic as Good Egg Galaxy in the first game, but it does a good job breathing life into the rest of the game, and from there on it only gets better. Yoshi Star Galaxy both introduces Yoshi, and is one of the largest levels in the entire game, with so many planets, gimmicks, and even some open world elements. That's the second level, and it's somehow one of the finest overall. And it's not even like it's an exception in quality. All of World 1's levels are fun in their own right and employ various engaging gimmicks. Whether it's drilling through planets, flipping panels for a Wiimote shake, breaking the laws of gravity, or better yet, generating clouds. World 1 has not a single bad level, a first on this list. Even the weaker galaxies are more than passable, and that's a steady accomplishment coming from a tutorial world. And who can forget the final battle with Gobblegut? Without a doubt, World 1 in Super Mario Galaxy 2 is one of the greatest first worlds in any Mario game, to the point that it was even in the top 3 of this ranking, only beaten out by 2 others. World 3. This always brings me back in time. For me, World 3 has always been the quintessential Mario Galaxy 2 experience, holding some of the more laid-back yet really creative stages. In fact, its quality only made World 4 more disappointing for me when I beat it. The thing that's so good about World 3 is that it's a perfect transition between the more light-hearted beginning and more mature late game, capturing the best aspects of both worlds. Until World 4 ruins it. The world map is already one of my favorites, with the stunning green nebula and asteroid belt. And the music is one of the most ambiguously beautiful things I've heard in my life. I wouldn't even be giving it justice trying to explain why it's so good. And it only gets better when it comes to the levels themselves. Tall Trunk and Cloudy Court Galaxy are already amazing starts, taking concepts found in World 1 and expanding on them. You've also got what I believe to be the most underrated galaxy throughout both games, Freezy Flake Galaxy. What looked like a regular snow level turned out to be surprisingly engaging, with lots of open world elements and creative uses of power-ups. The other galaxies in World 3 aren't amazing per se, but they're not bad at all. Haunty Halls, Beat Block and Rolling Masterpiece Galaxy are kinda generic, but they still have charming gimmicks. Yes, I actually enjoy the Rolling Ball Galaxies. Again, motion controls aren't really that bad. So yeah, World 3 is for the most part a very solid experience, and then you get to the Bowser Jr. level, and this might actually be my favorite level in the entire game. The level itself is already more engaging than other boss levels. But then you get to fight one of the single greatest boss battles in Mario history. Mega Hammer, my beloved. I'd have to make a separate video if I wanted to properly explain why I love Mega Hammer so much, but in short, you get to use Yoshi. He takes 8 hits. The music is based and he just looks straight up cool and scary. Too bad World 4 had to take such a dip after that. I've already gone on enough about that one, but luckily, the game immediately picked up the pace again after that. As the best world of Super Mario Galaxy 2, even surpassing the third one for me, is none other than World 5. If World 3 was the perfect limbo between cheerful and dangerous, World 5 is the perfect entrance into the dangerous territory. I remember first unlocking it and being stunned by how the atmosphere completely changed. It was much darker, more ominous, and even Lubba described it as moving into enemy territory. Not only is it a cool atmosphere, the world map is actually kinda unique mechanically as well, as it's the only world where you can largely beat the levels in any order you like. Not that it really matters though, because all of them, literally all of them, are kingly in my opinion. The worst one for me is Fleet Glide Galaxy, a level where you're soaring through a factory that's slowly collapsing on itself. Yeah. I mean, okay, I guess Upside Dizzy Galaxy isn't very original, but even that is super fun, expanding on the concept found in World 1's Right Side Down Galaxy. And the rest of World 5 is only better. You got Space Storm, where you're navigating through several space factories. Shiverburn, where you're alternating between hot and cold while these mysterious creatures are looking down on you. And Boo Moon Galaxy, what a gem. This level is so bizarre, whether you're in a moon maze, a folding swamp, a picture book, or a mansion navigating as a Boo. It's so weird, so original, and still perfectly feels like a spooky Mario level. I love it. Even the desert level was pretty good, with the second mission focusing on ruins in an engaging Sandbird section. The boss level, while not as fun as the one in World 3, also has its own immense charm. I love how you actually get to see Mega Hammer's ruined armor and use its still functioning bullet bill turrets to progress forward. It's such a creative idea, and if the lead up and boss were a bit longer, this would have easily been my favorite boss level. But yeah, World 5, what an amazing set of levels, perhaps the best in the entire Mario series. And that wraps up my ranking of the worlds in Super Mario Galaxy 2. But what is your ranking? Did you agree with me or not? If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel as I talk about everything Mario related. Follow me on Discord, Twitter and Patreon. I'll see you all soon. Until next time.